Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
I got my applause first today. Thank you so much. And thanks, everybody, for being here for another very important and interesting edition of What's Up with Kobylt and Friends. I'm going to get straight into it today. Let's go right to the video of our new president-elect. Some people in the studio here today don't even want to hear it, see it, or anything. I'm surprised they're not running out of here. I have others in studio who are just going to sort of see what happens. And then I have someone on the phone who's here to also discuss from USC what we can expect from our new president-elect, Donald Trump. Let's go to the tape.
And law enforcement in New York City, they're here tonight. These are spectacular people, sometimes underappreciated, unfortunately, but we appreciate them. We know what they go through. So, it's been what they call a historic event.
That's for sure.
But to be really historic, we have to do a great job. And I promise you that I will not let you down. We will do a great job. We will do a great job. I look very much forward to being your president.
I guess we
and
can...
hopefully at the end of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years or maybe even 8 years, you will say, so many of you work so hard for us, but you will say that that was something that you were very proud to do. And
all right, we can get out of it now.
Thank you very much.
Just going to go rambling on. So that was Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States of America. A shocking day yesterday. Honestly, John Kobylt from the John and Ken Show of KFI Radio, thanks for joining me. We're going to go to you first because I know you've got to get over to Burbank and do your own show. So thanks for being here. I really do appreciate it. Also in studio, and she's going to chime in, and she said she was crying all day based on the news. I have a lot of friends who are out there crying all day. We've got Amy Williams, a filmmaker, mom, animal and environmental advocate, among other things. Thanks for being here. And on the phone, we've got Morris Levy. He's assistant professor of political science at USC. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. But, John, let's go to you first. Yesterday morning, people were watching Fox. They were watching CNN and all kinds of shows out there. And most people were saying, you know, if he just kept his mouth shut, he could have had the election. People were already calling it earlier in the day, going to her. And then all of a sudden, midday, later in the day, people said, oh, my gosh, he's going to get this state and that state. And next thing you knew, people are looking, it's down to Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And he got it.
The exit polling
shocking
that they were all reading was all wrong. Just like all the polling, the entire presidential season has been wrong. They ought to demolish the entire polling industry. Never has anyone ever seen more worthless, useless data.
I happen to agree.
It was wrong. I was looking at literally hundreds of polls over 50 states, national polls going on for months. They were always wrong. And that's the only reason you had people on yesterday gearing up for a Hillary Clinton win.
Honestly, I think the journalists have been extremely irresponsible. I really do. From the very beginning, I mean, this became a campaign about nastiness, given you can't really put words in people's mouths. Having said that, the journalists would run with all of that. They would run with everything. Oh, go ahead.
There's a disconnect between what the journalists care about and what the other half of the country cares about. The people who voted for Trump don't care about the journalists' issues. They're not offended by the things that the people in media are offended by. They don't care.
No, the KKK is marching in North Carolina right now. The floodgates of hell have just begun.
The KKK is nearly non-existent in America.
That's
they have
what
no
we
influence.
thought about voters for Trump.
No, voters for Trump are not members of the KKK. That's not true.
Well, whatever. Let's stay on topic about what happened with the media.
Let me tell you something. The key states we're in the Midwest, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Iowa, Wisconsin, Ohio. Those states have suffered tremendous job losses for many years. And
It's going to get much worse.
one of
now.
the big reasons is that both parties made trade agreements that sent the jobs overseas and left people behind without work. And it's been very difficult. And when Hillary Clinton went to these states, and she actually said this, to coal miners in West Virginia, it's like, well, basically she said, we'll send you checks. In other words, the government will make up for closing down the coal industry by sending you checks. Well, people really want to work because work gives them dignity and meaning. It gives
They're not
them
going
order
to
to
work
the day.
now, that's for sure.
Well, we don't know that.
I do.
Well, I'm glad that you're clairvoyant.
They just voted for the devil himself, and I'm
he's
sorry.
he's not the devil.
We were
You're-
out
you're-
of
you know what?
time.
You're just saying things.
John, just stay on
There's
topic for a minute,
no
please.
there's no
Okay,
there's no substance. There's no proof.
Okay, I'm not interested in an argument here. So I just want to stay on topic about jobs. So let me hear what you have
So
to say
okay,
about jobs.
so those people. Michael Moore went around Michigan a few weeks ago, and he said Trump is going to win, and it's going to be the biggest FU to the media and the elite, because Michael Moore, going back 25 years, was in touch with the people in his hometown, and he saw the jobs being sent away, and he saw that these people had devolved into alcohol and drugs and family dysfunction because their dignity was taken away. And in those states, there was such a turnout in those districts, far beyond what the Trump people expected. They were expecting a high turnout, and then they got 10% more.
Michael-
And that 10% more flipped Michigan and Pennsylvania and
You're
Wisconsin.
right about all of that. I'm not disagreeing.
And as you know, I walk most mornings with a friend of mine who is such a diehard Hillary person. She couldn't even come over today to walk with me. She was so upset. And I always say to her, June, you have to understand. She's very well educated, my friend, as you know. And sometimes I feel like she doesn't understand how those people in the
Hillary
middle. Hang
didn't-
on a minute.
Hillary didn't
Hang on.
campaign in
In the
Wisconsin.
middle of the country feel. And what I would say to her is, if you want to change something, you have to understand how they feel
Well,
and what they're thinking in order to get in there and change
Tolerance.
it. Now, having said
tolerance and inclusion means tolerance and inclusion for everybody, including people who've been put out of work unfairly, I think, and being offered government welfare in return.
look, whether you like Trump or not, and I've personally found him throughout this entire campaign to be frightening and despicable. Let me just put that out there. Whether you like him or not, I just think people finally went to the voting booth and said, let's see what he can do. Because I don't know. I think I know what she's going to do. I don't know what he's going to do. And at the end of the day, they voted for him. And then look what happened. I mean, I was
For me, it's
stunned.
not about Hillary or all of this stuff. He's absolutely right. The issue is we were out of time environmentally. I look at things from a place way up in the sky, down. I'm a realist. We were out of time 5 years ago. We don't have time for all this BS. We don't have time for people to figure it out. We're out of time. And the problem is, we just put somebody in office that doesn't even have a concept. And the people that voted for him are like talking to a box of hammers.
I have to tell
We're
you,
not
though-
going to ever convince them of the big picture. And the big picture is we just screwed the future of this planet and our children terribly. And the saddest thing for me, it isn't about Hillary. It's ego and self-righteousness got us here. And the sad truth is all of these young people that had some hope, it's lost. What we just told them yesterday. It's so sad to me.
A lot of millennials voted for Trump.
I know.
Way more than they expected. A lot
I
more
know.
women
I
voted for
actually-
Trump. A lot more Hispanics voted for
I
Trump than
underst-
expected.
There
It's
was
true.
it
They're-
doesn't
they're-
even
they're-
matter though. There was a witch hunt after Bernie, and it was Bernie supporters had a lot to do with putting him in the White House too. It's just all so sad.
She's right about that.
Politics are sad. They're just they're gonna put this planet to the ground, and that's it. They have already. I'm sorry.
Morris Levy, from assistant professor of political science over at USC. Thanks for hanging on and listening to us. You and I were talking the day before the election, and remember what was the nature of our discussion? He's been arrogant. It's too bad, if he just had kept his mouth shut, he could have had the election. I'm telling you, myself and all my fellow journalists, CNN, Fox, wherever you want, whatever you're watching, really predicted that this was going to Hillary. And you and I were even talking a little bit like this. What happened yesterday? I'm sure you were surprised too. What happened? What were the people saying out there, and what are they saying?
Sure. Well, I'll do my best to interpret what the people out there are saying, and with that said, I should confess that I, like just about everybody else, badly misread the state of public opinion. I think on several of the issues, at least the intensity of the discontent, and the degree to which voters would be willing to set aside their personal reservations about the candidate and some of their dislike of his policies and style and tone, and still vote for him, either as the lesser of two evils or because of broader concerns about the way government is being run. I want to just read a couple of data points, I think, from a poll that Jack Citrin at the University of California, Berkeley, and I conducted just a week before the election. And I think that there are certainly problems with the way that poll data are being handled. I wouldn't agree that there's nothing that we can learn from it. And so here's some of the things that we learned from this survey of American voters, which showed a very, very tight race between Clinton and Trump. We asked people whether they agreed or disagreed with a few statements. One of them was, our political leaders care more about global problems than the problems of Americans. 51% agreed, 25% disagreed, right? And this is a survey that found about 40% support for Trump, and a lot of people kind of still undecided. So a lot of people who didn't vote for Trump also agree with this statement. Here's another one.
How could you not agree with that, though, honestly? I mean, you'd have to be living under a rock to not agree with that sort of a thing. I think both sides agree on a lot of things. That's the
problem
problem.
is, though, we have to
right?
care about everything if we care about ourselves. And those that don't know that don't understand, and you're never going to convince them of it. The problem is the poorest people are what makes the wheels turn. And that's all there is to it. And when we don't feed them, they go hungry and they get very large and they eat you in the end.
That's interesting, actually.
I'm sympathetic to all of these arguments, but I think that if we keep wringing our hands about, if only the voters understood and could see the nuances of the policy dispute the way that we, the elites do, we, the learned about politics do, we're going to continue to kind of miss or misconstrue what the source of the discontent is. And the reason that I read that poll datum to you is that I think it brings up some parallels with Brexit, where it's not that hard to see, right? But there's an overwhelming belief, founded or ill-founded in this country, that our leaders are not in tune and maybe even don't care about the needs of ordinary Americans. And that, again, that might be fair or unfair, but until we find a way of addressing that particular belief rather than maligning it, I don't think we're going to make a whole lot of progress.
Look, I covered the first Republican debates when they were over at the Reagan Library, and you had an entire line of these guys up there debating and throwing out all sorts of insults. And I said way back then, I said, look at that guy. I said, he's going to become the president. And everybody said, no, he's not. How could you say such a thing? I said, didn't I? Didn't I say that? I did.
Yeah, because wait a minute. He was talking about things that a lot of people cared about, and all the rest of the Republicans and the Democrats, with the exception of Sanders, were not talking about.
And by the way, I'm extremely impartial. I was looking at it as an impartial person. What I was saying there was everyone is sick of politicians. They are just tired of them all the way around.
The thing is, though, like bees only have a few more years. Like people just don't. It's like plutonium. If you ever want to clear a room, start talking about that. Everybody's worried about all the wrong things. It's so fascinating.
You know what? I have to tell you, I think people are all worried about the same things, concerned about the same things. I really do. Who doesn't want a better environment? Who doesn't want jobs? Not just giving
an
somebody
environment for your children in the future. I mean, his sons smile holding elephant tails. You have failed as a parent profusely if you raise a child like that.
That is
I'm
shocking
sorry,
to me.
but there's no words. I don't. It fascinates me.
A guy without a job in Michigan isn't going to care about Trump holding up an elephant tail.
I know.
But John's got a point.
You've got to go to what people care about in their homes.
I know, money, dinner table. I understand.
Well, they don't have money. They don't have.
I know, because he has it all. That's why.
It's such a complicated situation. I mean, look, as I said, I think most people do care.
He doesn't care about them. I promise you that, sir.
You know, the only thing is, I'm from New York, just like you are, by the way, Amy, and I know Trump. It doesn't mean I like the guy. It doesn't mean I voted for the guy. But I know him, and I know that he puts a lot of people to work. And for a lot of those people who work for him, I remember.
I know of people he didn't pay, ever.
Yes.
that worked in his hotels. I know of terrible, terrible things he's done. I'm not going to go on about it.
But then that
long
becomes-
ago, I liked him for his tenacity. When I was younger, I even had his book at my house, and I was impressed by his tenacity. I love the fact that he just kept getting up and didn't get down. I think that's the only thing that I could say good about him. He has absolutely no other redeeming quality.
But see, once
as
again,
far as
though,
I'm concerned.
I'm trying to advance this whole conversation for all of us. Okay, the guy is now the president-elect, and the entire campaign was based on Hillary pointing fingers at him pointing an entire, both of his hands at her, and it just became dirty all the way around. Issues got lost. People who need jobs got lost. Environmental issues got lost. International policy got lost. Everything got lost, and it all became about who said something uglier than the other one. So now I'm trying to advance this and say, this guy's going to be our president for the next 4 years. If we don't like him, we can get rid of him. What will it actually be like to have a guy in office who is a businessman, and I imagine a successful one, even though he's declared bankruptcy so many times in Atlantic City, which I personally covered. Having said that,
we don't have 4 years, and the truth is, I don't think we could get rid of him. I didn't even think he could get elected.
But he is.
I know,
And
and
what
that
I'm
means
trying to say-
that means that we are seriously screwed.
But we may not be if we can all stand, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, and John, I know you have to go. So go ahead. Let me give you the final word, and then you can run out of here. What do you want to say?
What I want to say is much of what's discussed in the media is irrelevant to people.
It's bullshit to
They've
people.
tuned out the media. They're not listening to the media. They don't respect the media.
I don't listen to the media.
They don't. And so, the media had a lot of faulty polls, and that's why everybody walked around thinking there was...
Except the LA
The
Times.
media put
But-
Trump in the office.
The LA Times
And then-
actually was one of the only
And a
polls that
man
had
would
him
rather
ahead.
cut his penis off than vote for a woman. Okay, a large amount of those voters were responsible for that too.
There were a lot of men who voted for Hillary.
Yeah, but not
There's
enough.
the-
It's too soon for a woman.
Well,
it's too hard for us to wrap our head
I-
around that.
There were.
I don't know if it had to do with her
I'm
being a
sorry,
woman.
I don't agree.
All right, John,
I'll
wait a
never-
minute. You're running out of here?
I've got to go. Yeah, I got to
Quick,
go.
John,
John, I'm
word?
sorry if I.
No, it's fine.
Are you kidding? He's
I-
used to this all day
That's
long.
what I do for a living.
No, I agree with what.
Thank
he
you
was
for
saying,
coming
but
in. No. He has a show to do at 2:00. Thank you for running out
Nice
of here.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
He really is running out of here. He's got 20 minutes to get to Burbank. Morris, let me run to you really quickly because you hear us sort of, we have a heated discussion going on here in the studio. What would you like to address? Immigration. I know that is something that you feel very strongly about. Is this guy going to go building a giant-sized wall? Because let's face it, it's not going to work. Mexico's not going to pay for it.
Is he going to throw his wife over the wall too? His
I
third
think,
wife?
What I think
so
we can say
embarrassing.
for sure is that this is one of these issues that really did, ironically, since it was his signature issue, get lost during the campaign. We don't have a great idea what his immigration policy is now. And Hillary Clinton, in making the case about how dangerous he was, when I think to many voters he seemed flawed, but maybe not all that dangerous, and they didn't have this kind of alarmist view in the way that has been described. I think that that she let him get away with a lot of hazy statements. Who exactly is he going to target for deportation? What sort of wall does he envision? What sort of deal is he going to make with the undocumented immigrants who are living here and haven't committed, quote unquote, any crime?
Stop. He can't say
other than their own presence. We don't know. I would suspect that to get a wall through Congress, it's not going to be sort of a great brick and mortar wall with a big Trump logo on it. But I do think, and there's been talk before Trump of this, that you might get a much stronger a sort of virtual wall that involves a lot of technology, and we can debate the policy merits of that kind of innovation. I think, though, that part of the tragedy of this campaign is that those sorts of debates never really happened. People just kind of poo-pooed the wall, talked about how exclusionary it was, how symbolically nasty it was, and they never got down to talking about, well, what would the wall be? What might it accomplish? What do experts think who have studied this about its ability to deter illegal immigration, but also maybe some of the potential side effects? For example, causing undocumented immigrants to spend longer times in the country, which often happens.
I
when
really
enforcement
think
of
the
border
critical
goes up.
focus of everything should have been the environment. I'm sorry, but I will never stop. I just can't see how people could be so lost I mean, we're out of
Well,
time.
look,
I'm
but
serious.
there's a lot of issues. That's one of the most important ones, and that never even came up. Hillary didn't bring it up enough. I mean, nobody talked about the environment, but people really are concerned with the 80 years that they're spending here. They're not looking forward, right? So let's just put that out there.
But
So
that's the point. Everyone is so self-absorbed and so lacking
all right, but having said
gratitude
that,
and humility. Everybody is about instant gratification today. They're not concerned with the big picture.
But you're lamenting the same public that elected Barack Obama 4 years ago and 8 years
He's right.
ago. I mean, how
He's
do you
right.
with that?
What it is, I understand, but it's changed.
He's right.
It's changed. He's done a lot of really good things, but we never focus on the good news. We only focus on the bad news. The truth is, though, it's a game. It's like you can't be on Capitol Hill if you don't drink the devil's piss. There's no way around it. It's a mob-run, money-run institution.
Okay, wait a minute. I have to stop you there, though, a little bit. And again, I'm not for or against Trump. I'm not even going there. And you're going to tell me Clinton and the foundation and all that
No,
they're
I'm
not
not
like that?
telling-
I mean, come on.
I'm not telling you that at all. I'm
mean-
telling you every single sitting president has to eat some evil stuff.
Right, but
and
here's
do
one thing.
things.
Here's something interesting about him. You have to give him just a little bit of this. He's not part of the Washington, D.C. establishment. He's just not. So who knows when he walks in there what he's going to do, and he's going to say, hey, I don't owe you anything, and I don't owe you anything. So this is what I think would be better. So it's
Well,
be
he's
interesting.
his own institution.
He is, but it
He's
would
sort
be
of like
interesting.
the parasitical twin of.
But don't you think it would be interesting to
he's
see what will he do? Instead of saying he's going to be rotten, he's awful, he's a devil, how about we all just stop
well,
and
I'm
say...
not even going to pay attention to it. I'll
Well,
never have
no,
the
no, no,
news
no,
in
no.
my house. I'm sort of like a person that just told they have terminal lung cancer. I'm going to kiss my loved ones and say goodbye to this beautiful planet. That's where I'm at right now.
When I teach political science to my students in Introductory American Government, one of the things that I say to them, and I repeated it before the election returns started coming in yesterday, is, this system was designed so that imperfect people could run it without running us into disaster. I guess I still have faith in that idea, even though some of our institutions have succeeded in dramatically undermining themselves. In the same poll I was talking to you about earlier, we asked, how much trust people have in the media and other institutions. The media got a whopping 11% who trust it a great deal or a lot, and about 70% a little or none at all.
Here's
so
the
if we want to
issue.
be able to communicate with people, we need to have an institution that's able to disseminate messages that people trust, and the media gradually has eroded that trust.
Because I
just
think,
as other political institutions have.
as someone who's in the media and as someone who's worked for CNN for so many years, I have to tell you, I think the media is so elitist that they've really lost sight of what is important to a lot of people out there. I come from a very blue-collar background in New Jersey. I really understand how people are feeling that they want to just... they need work. They need work. They want work. And from there, they can do all good things. But without it, they feel lost. And
Well,
they
yesterday was my mom.
but wait 1 minute. And then, I come out here and we become somewhat successful as a couple, as a family. And I notice that in certain elite circles, people really lose sight of the people who really are looking for work. They don't want to be handed something. They want something to work. And I think both sides have screwed us. There's no doubt about it. Both sides have screwed us. But I guess people finally went to the polls and said, all right, with her, I think I know what I'm going to get. With him, what the hell? Let's see what he can give me. And I think that's what's happening. Now, maybe he needs some good people behind him who can stress the importance of the environment and other issues, for example, that are important to you. But there's issues important to everybody. And hopefully, if he doesn't really have anyone that he has to, kowtow to, if you will, for lack of a better word, then perhaps he could be effective, I guess is my point.
The saddest thing about me is I'm an eternal optimist. My father marched with Martin Luther King. He was in Korea as a Marine. He was a genius. He taught philosophy at UNC. He's rolling over in his grave right now. And yesterday was my mother's birthday, her 78th birthday, and I think this might do her in. I mean, I'm not kidding. She's done more for this planet than anybody I've ever met. It's just sad who's in charge and what's going on. And, I really lost faith in humanity yesterday. I really did. I have 2 daughters, and It just was so heartbreaking.
Look, I have 3 sons, one who happens to go to Berkeley, so I get it. And believe me, last night he was calling me saying, "Oh my God, you wouldn't believe what it's like out here." And I said, I can't imagine. No. So I get it. I get what you're saying. But the way to do this is to stop and think, all right, people went to the polls and they voted what they really needed and believed in. How can we help this guy? How can we
There's
actually
no way to
advance?
help. This is a poisonous sept.
All right, but if you're an optimist, you know what?
I've lost it. I'm sorry. You're right. It did me
That's
in.
the same attitude,
Don't do
though,
that.
fosters polarization.
I
and
agree.
gridlock.
I agree
The
with
idea
that.
There's no way to
No,
make
it isn't
progress.
even
I
about
totally
her.
agree.
It isn't even about her. It's what I saw and what I see is Chernobyl. That's what I see. I'm sorry. And
Well, that's not going to happen. And we know that. That's not going to happen. And in a way, it's too bad because both sides sort of exaggerate the other. They've made her out to be No, but one side has made her out to be the evil witch on a broom. And then they've made him out, I will tell you, if he kept his mouth shut, this wouldn't have happened so much, to be just a lunatic. So, everybody just really needs to just
I'm not someone that even discusses politics publicly. I really try and not even speak about it. It's just such a toxic thing. I try and just vote and do my thing. I know who my people are. I know that they're there, but I think it's really hard to convince people that just don't understand. Emotional intelligence is a gift. It's not something, it's truly we have serious problems here.
All right, but to you, perhaps it's the way people voted was wrong and they didn't have that intelligence. But for the people who went out there and did put him in office, maybe they looked at it the other way. So what I'm saying is down the middle.
I love them all. I'm not somebody, I'm a lover. I really.
See, can I just say something? What's going on here is what's wrong with this country. Everybody's on one side, the other side, the middle, the other, and no one can see what's really people are trying to say. No one can
I'm not
see
an
and hear the
extreme
other
liberal.
side.
I'm not a basher of either. I'm a realist and somebody that loves this planet and loves all people. I'm sort of not, I'm removed. I think they're both really, the intensity, righteousness and self-righteousness and ego is the issue.
Well, he's got ego, that's for sure. But it'd be interesting
on both sides.
Go ahead, Morris. Please get in there.
Yeah, you're describing elitism. Plain and simple. I love people. I want one for them. They disagree with about what prioritize, make a political decision. Then they lack national intelligence, some other kind of intelligence.
No, I don't mean. I
wonder the capacity of the electorate to sort of decisions that we have to make, and having voted on about 7 oppositions yesterday only, which I think I understood it all, I am skeptical about how much decision directed we should be giving rather than do it is. But there's trust their
We're getting Morris, hang on one second. We're getting some interference. Is that coming from our building? Is there any way that we can put an end to that?
I'm going to message Tony right now.
Can we, please, if anybody's working in the next room, sorry about that. Morris, I actually was not able to hear your entire comment, so let me just try this again. I want to stick a little bit on immigration because that's really important. The wave of immigration, no matter how you think about it, we just can't continue to go in this way. Is he going to get people that are already here and just send them back? Because that's wrong. It's mean. You just can't do that. So how do we absorb those people? What's his plan?
Every
I know.
word.
If somebody can hear me in the next room, we're getting some interference.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. What do we do to work with the number of immigrants that are already here in this country, to put them to work, to assimilate them? Obviously, that's amnesty. I don't know where Trump even is on that, but what are we doing? Because he can't just put people in truckloads and send them back. So what do we do now?
I'm sorry. I just every again.
Immigration. What do we do for the people that are here now, so that they are able to stay here now? And is he going to be sending them back by the truckload? What is he doing? What is his plan on immigration?
I don't think he would do that. I think it was extremely difficult and to uproot, probably impossible, liberties. And I think he knows that, to uproot 11, 12, however many people are here, permission to leave apart. It's not something that the American public support for. When you ask the question, what do people want done about illegal immigration in the abstract, support for deportation, even among his own supporters, Trump's own supporters, never got to 50%, and in the public as a whole, it's usually hovering somewhere around 30%. So I don't think that there'd be much appetite for that in Congress, and I don't think that it could be, frankly, executed in the way that he sort of tantalized us all with in the prior, claiming that he could have done a la Eisenhower's 1954 Operation Wetback, which wound up deporting about 1 million people, many of whom it turned out were actually U.S. citizens, right? So that kind of thing, I think, would not be tolerated nowadays. Now, what
is his plan?
Yeah.
What can be done, and what should he do? Because first of all, we can't continue to just open our doors every day, no matter where anyone's coming from. I don't care where they're from: Ireland, Italy, Middle East, Mexico, Canada. Eventually, there has to be, a better way to do this sort of a thing. So,
Sure.
what's he going to do? Did he lay it out? What's his plan?
Yeah, his plan, as far as we know, is actually not all that distinct from the plan of the Republicans that he lambasted during the primary season. As far as we can tell, and that's an important caveat because we don't really know clearly what his plan is, it would be something like this. Go after those who have committed crimes basically mercilessly. Make sure that they're deported, that they're brought to justice if we can, right? Go after so-called criminal aliens. Now, Trump's rhetoric tends to exaggerate the number of undocumented immigrants that there are in this country who have committed serious crimes. There are some, and Trump is able to give salient and poignant examples of them and make them central to his primary campaign. But by and large, we're talking about a small subset of the illegal immigrants who are here, right? Most of whom come to work, most of whom are with families, most of whom are integrated reasonably well into our communities, many of whom have lived here for over 10 years. So that's part of Trump's plan. The other part seems to be to get serious about enforcement in ways that the government has been sort of lax about in the past, and the public notices this.
He's
so
promised also to imprison press members, and I mean, I'm telling you, let's take a look at all the leaders now.
Yeah,
Korea,
he's not
Russia.
Okay, but we're not Russia or Korea.
Well,
Everyone
I'm
who
just
says
saying,
that,
they thought he couldn't get elected either.
But you know what?
So what
Trump
can Trump do? I can tell you roughly what the American public says it will support, rather than what my own program would be. And what it says it would support is some kind of way for undocumented immigrants to become integrated into American society. But the degree of consensus on that breaks down when you get into the details. So if you ask people in the abstract, should there be a path to citizenship for illegal immigrants, the very same public that just elected Donald Trump president, about 3/4 of them say yes, right? A sympathetic answer to the problems and complexities of immigration. When you get down to stuff that strikes Americans as contravening the rule of law, an inside track, maybe not being serious about the security issues that, whether these are serious issues at the Mexican border, we can disagree about. Americans believe they are. And so when we get down to things like, should people have to go back to their home countries first? Should they have to get in line in the same process?
Okay, so what's, just to cut it short,
divisive.
what's the answer to that? Yes or no? Is that what he's going to do or not? Because if you're already here and your kid's in school, that's not practical. I mean, what do you think he would do in a case like that? Yes, would he send them back or keep them here and figure out a way to assimilate them? What's your answer to that?
Right. Frankly, I don't think that he's going to do a whole lot on that front, and I think that if he veered too far in the direction of trying to implement that program, it would be rejected by the very people that it's supposed to benefit. And I think that if he went in the other direction and set up a program that was sort of in the view of the American public, and especially among Republicans, too lenient, that it wouldn't make it past Congress. So I think there's a reason that we've had so much paralysis on this issue. What's he going to do? That's anybody's guess. What can he do? Probably to a limited degree, he can make incremental changes. Maybe he can get them through law that deal with so-called dreamers, people who were brought here as kids. These are wildly popular in the American public. President Obama's first executive action, DACA, right, did not encounter much opposition in Congress. Something like that might be legislatively feasible if there are serious enforcement measures attached.
Okay, a couple of other issues to address what Amy was talking about, the environment. Where does he even stand on that? What would he be doing with that? And here's one that's important to me: the Supreme Court.
The top climate skeptic to lead the EPA transition.
Who did he choose?
Myron Ebel.
Do you know Myron Ebel? I do not know him, I have to tell you. Who is Myron Ebel? Morris, do you know who he is?
No, I've never heard of him before.
What does he do? Because she's Googling this stuff. I appreciate that, by the way.
Myron Ebel.
How do you spell his name, and what does this guy do?
His name is actually Ebel.
Wait,
is that correct?
How do you
No,
spell his?
Ebel,
Evil.
Ebell.
I see.
Okay, but what's his background?
He plans to drastically. It's just I can't even talk about it.
But please do,
so-
because it's on Google and we
I'm
need to talk
struggling
about
to
it.
open it. Can Morris get to it?
Yeah, no, I just pulled up. I mean, I just Googled his name,
Yeah,
and
what
there's a
does it say?
Breitbart article from 20 hours ago that says Trump, the left just lost the war on climate change. And let's see. I can't find
That's
much detail
frightening.
about him.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, here we go. To get an idea of the horrors to come for the Greenies, look at how they reacted at the prospect of his new EPA dismantler-in-chief, Myron Ebel. Ebel is an old friend of mine who works on climate and energy issues at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, the article says. In fact, he's an old friend of mine, tells you where does he stand on global warming. It looks like he is a climate change denier. So that seems correct if this article is true. I don't have any
No, it's
particular
true.
knowledge
My
about
mom
this
was
issue.
worked as a copy editor and columnist. She just retired from the Staten Island Advance. She's worked everywhere.
I have to
She's
tell you
one of
that-
the smartest people I've ever met in my life. And when she says something, it's fact.
So you're telling me he already appointed him. I will tell you, to me, that's troubling. What about the Supreme Court justices? What's going to happen there? See, there's a lot of issues that people, who could have almost swung both ways. It's issues like this, climate control and climate issues. They are important, whether you believe in certain things or not. At least get some learned scientists on your team.
Oh my
to
God,
explain it.
important. It's like so horrifying. People just don't understand. It's so sad.
Climate control, Supreme Court justices, abortion. There's so many issues that so many people are concerned about. It's not just jobs. There's so many other issues. What next? What can we expect from him, Morris?
Well, I think he's going to, this is an indication, he's going to have to throw some red meat to his base, and his base includes
Well put.
the so-called alt-right, and that means that on certain issues, I think we're going to see him gesturing in that direction, and this is
In
an
every
example.
direction. He's not going to do anything good. He doesn't care. I'm sorry. Come on.
I don't
No,
think. I don't think it said he doesn't
I don't know
care.
whether he
Oh,
cares.
no,
I
he
think
doesn't care.
No, I
Trust
think he
me.
has his own.
It's
No.
beside the point.
I agree with that.
I
It is
know.
beside the point. I think he has his own point of view, and whoever the leader is, and he's in.
Well, there's
it's their-
majority Republicans. I don't even want to. I love you all, and it's just so sad. My biggest issue is our children and the environment. That's what I care about. I've done every job there is. I grew up in the ghetto with nothing. My father was a Korean War veteran, and he was treated like a dog. The bottom line is, and he fought so hard for integration. Everything that we gained, we lost yesterday. We set ourselves back so brutally. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry, but
I have to tell you something though. But did she run a significant enough campaign?
No, she didn't.
She
but,
didn't.
But the
and-
Bernie supporters destroyed us. The men who don't want a woman in there. There's so many things that were against us. It's just so
I never
sad.
really heard that one about not wanting her in as a woman. I think.
Well,
people
no.
I think
Come
people
on.
are so used
Helen
to.
Keller knows that. We can't.
No,
there
but
are
I'm
men
not-
that will rather
There
prostitute
is
their
no-
mother
there is
than
no
vote for a
evidence
woman.
whatsoever to
Well, I'm
support that
sorry.
contention.
I understand
what,
it's
though?
easy for you to say.
No, but I agree. Believe me, I've been the subject of so much sexism stuff.
It's
and-
like saying there's no racism today.
no. But let me just.
Nobody's saying there's no racism.
No, but let me
Yeah,
just-
saying that male
No.
chauvinist pigs wouldn't vote for Democrat men voted for Trump. I promise you.
Okay, well, let me just finish a minute. I understand that, but somehow I think Hillary's been around so long. I find it difficult to believe. I'm sure there's plenty out there that majority-wise people would say, "Oh, I'm not voting for her because she's a woman." I
No,
don't
even
think
if
so.
we
I
had
think
the right
she's-
woman right now,
I don't.
Working class women by 2-1. It's almost the same margin that she lost.
Yeah, but
working class
a lot
men
of
by.
women are not doing well. I'm just saying, and they have good reason
I
to not
agree
be
with
doing
that.
well.
And I find it troubling, but I think just
You
to say
should.
that a significant
If you
reason
have
for her
daughters,
support-
you should be crying right now. Anyone with a
do have a
daughter.
daughter.
Yeah, anyone with a daughter should be very, very, very sad today.
You say that, but can I say, look at his two daughters. I personally think Ivanka is smart, and I think she is a millennial, and I don't even think
I think she's shallow as a wading pool.
I don't. I just think she doesn't have a lot of emotion attached to her. I think she is able to look at a situation and just assess it, and that's how she is.
She's beautiful, but it's not her fault. I mean, she is what she is. We are who our environment makes us, and the sad thing is women are really screwed up because we've tortured and abused them and kept them down for centuries. I mean, look all over this planet. It's so sad. It's so sad. I mean, it's okay. There's nothing we could do. It is what it is. No, it isn't even. I mean, I'm not rooting for. What I do is it's a game of chess. I see the big picture. It wasn't about her. It was about what was the best choice and the safest choice. And the bottom line is sometimes you have to do something that isn't so great just to protect us a little bit. And we just lost that opportunity yesterday. It isn't about her. We had to put our egos down and put everything down and do the next right thing. And that was the next right thing. And there's no way that that's going to be different.
But regardless of who got in, right, don't you feel like it's important that, let's say she got in, it's very important for the other side to then rally behind her and say, we're going to support her. And if we don't agree with what she's doing, we're going to rally and get it changed. And same with Trump. Now that, I mean, why people who have a certain point of view, agenda, this is America.
You know that Putin is coming over for a visit. He's going to be hanging at the White House with Trump.
Look, I just don't see how this kind of thing is productive. I mean, I wasn't thrilled to wake up this morning and say to my nearly 3-year-old, "Hey, Donald Trump is the president."
My daughters were hysterical crying. They were hysterical crying.
Too young to understand, but I wasn't thrilled with the idea that this would be the first president that she'd remember. But he is the president, and so I think it's on us instead of.
It is.
And your doomsday predictions may be right, but they're not terribly productive.
No, I could just give love to them, and I could give love to them, and I mean, I'm sorry, I really do. You seem like a really nice guy. I've lost all faith in humanity yesterday. I cried for 24 fucking hours.
I have to say something, Amy. Your point of view comes from also you're a filmmaker, you're a writer, you're a mom, you're an advocate for so many issues that are important to so many people.
My father was one of the most brilliant people. He taught philosophy at UNC. He's weeping from the heavens today. It's so sad. It's so sad. I mean, it's just so sad that people don't know how sad it is. That's the heartbreaking thing. We're dealing with such a mess, and people are so deranged about all the wrong things. It's just heartbreaking.
But remember, what's wrong to you is right, not necessarily right, but what's not as important to you is more.
It isn't even about wrong and right. It is what it is. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm not about righteousness. I'm about the big picture. That's what I'm about. And I'm just seeing it. And sadly, my husband calls me a linchpin. I wish I wasn't. He calls me a linchpin, and I didn't know what that was. And he told me it's someone that sees the big picture.
Amy.
And it's lonely up here, let me tell you.
There's not a lot of time left, but I just wanted to very briefly touch on the film that you're doing, Mothers and Daughters. And very briefly, if you can tell us who's in that: Susan Sarandon, Sharon Stone, Christina Ricci, Courtney Cox. And that is based on a personal story about rape, correct?
No, that was actually an older. I just did that film. I just did a short film for some young women that wrote it that are just beautiful. Lacey O'Malley and Dina Greenberg, and they experienced date rape, and I did as a young woman, and it's just epidemic right now. So basically, these young women wrote it, and I helped them produce it. I really want young women going to college to be really, really careful. So I was hoping to protect them. We're going to make it a college PSA. It's been submitted to a lot of big festivals. It's called Respire, and that's
called Respire. That's not the Mothers and Daughters.
That's okay. Mothers and Daughters is a film I did a couple of years ago, and it came out last May. I'm also working on horror films. Art is how I escape from, art saved my life when things were so terrible. Art is what, I think can really heal people. But the sad thing is I was really hoping to do this interview today where there was hope, and there was so much hope.
See, I think
yesterday.
There is hope. I think all the ideas that you have are valid, and as an American, you can get out there.
I mean, this is a film about date rape, and this guy was, listed as being date raping a 13-year-old that just was elected the
You know what,
president.
that's
I'm
very
just
difficult.
saying,
No, but I
I'm
want to
just-
say it's always difficult for me to hear that when I think about Bill Clinton. Come on.
I
mean,
understand, but in
you know.
my perception, he's not. I mean, that's a very sad situation. But he didn't. Those were willing participants, and they weren't 13. He was a charismatic sex addict in my mind. I mean, Kennedy wasn't much different, and it doesn't excuse it. But I mean, Trump is not someone that I don't think this 13-year-old was a willing participant. And I don't know the details, but I do know there's a lot of truth to it. I know that there's been death threats against her. And, I mean, I just think it's a very scary time right now for a lot of women, minorities, gays. And the environment. And the environment is the most important of all. Bees are so endangered, and we can't live without bees. I mean, I'm just
But
really
the people
sad.
who went to the polls weren't. No, and bees are important. I'm not saying
Oh
they're
my
not.
God, I'm
But
so worried about bees.
I know, but what I'm saying is the people who went to vote.
The ocean.
They were in the ocean, but the people were concerned about just putting food on their table, just the basic food.
I understand.
And
I
that's
mean,
where
I
they
love them.
went-
God bless them. I was starving as a
And
kid.
that's where they
we
went-
were on welfare. My mom worked 3 jobs to take care of us. My father was. I could go on and on.
But remember that those people, they just went to vote to say, how can we get jobs back here? We're not bringing them back from China. That's not going to happen. We do need a president who's forward thinking. Whether he is or not, I don't know. Everyone seems to do it the way.
I think
No, let me just finish.
Obama was forward thinking, and I really love him. I mean, I'm sorry, but I love him. I think
But
Mrs. Obama.
he was also part of the problem. A lot of our jobs went overseas under
Well,
his
he
under
had
his
an
watch,
absolute
too.
disaster to deal with. I
That-
mean,
that is without
There's
saying.
no. I mean, I'm sorry, but he had a disaster to deal with. He made lemonade out of lemons, and nothing's going to change my mind about that.
There is no doubt coming off of George W. Bush that was.
Yeah,
I
he
would
was
call it that.
hopeful. He gave us hope. I just cannot believe that we went from 2 of him by a landslide to this. It just really just was so traumatizing to me.
Will you do something for me? Because I'm going to have you back, because I actually want a show where we can talk about your work and the body of your work, because I find it interesting and I find you fascinating. Would you come back?
Sure, I would come back. I mean,
But in the meantime, will you do something for me? I just want to really learn about what he wants to bring to the table. This does concern me about the environment, I will tell you. And let's see if we try to rally behind him, and if we don't agree with him, try and get things changed. If that's a better way to go than if we all are so angry about what happened, then we're just going to continue to be a divided country.
Well, I'm going to try and avoid. I think things get energy when you give them energy, and we gave him so much energy. Energy is power, and we put so much energy into the wrong things.
Morris, what are you going to be telling your students today if you haven't already?
Well, it'll be tomorrow, but I think the thing that I'll tell them, because I assume that a lot of them will also be despondent, is that there's actually quite a lot here that's maybe less noticeable in the immediate sense, but that's quite a good reason to be optimistic. And there are things that are working here that don't work in most of the world. And one of those things that we saw today affirmed is a peaceful transfer of power. There's never been a more bruising election, I think, personally, politically.
Honestly, this reminds me of 9/11 and the death of my brother. I mean, I compare the agony I see.
But I will tell you, Morris said something. It's true.
Yeah.
The turnover of power. I mean, there's no mass lunacy, people running through the streets. It's been fairly peaceful today. Hillary's speech today, concession speech, was peaceful, albeit she was sad and she was choked up. It was peaceful. His speech last night, because he stayed on the teleprompter, I will tell you, if the guy just stays on the teleprompter,
Yeah, I would
he'll
never
stay out of
watch it.
trouble.
If you put a gun to my head, I wouldn't watch it. I
But
won't
I
allow it in my house.
You want to know something, though? If you want to change things, know what the other side is thinking. Always know.
I already know what he's thinking.
No, but watch him, know, and then you're better informed.
It makes me physically sick to look at the news. My blood pressure goes up. It's so bad for you. I really think the best thing to do is focus on positive things, love the people that you have in your life, and stay away from the whole energy of that. I mean, I think it's
you're
really
talking about withdrawing from politics, and you're encouraging people not to become active participants in
No,
the process.
That's a point.
I mean, we don't want to
I'm
withdraw. We
withdrawing.
want to
I'm
engage.
withdrawing.
Well, you know what? You put it into your work. I tell you, Amy,
I'd
you're
be
such a
very
talented
sorry to lose
filmmaker.
your voice in the public
Well,
arena.
I just
mean,
made
for
a
real.
film about date rape, and we just
Sure.
we just elected somebody that was accused of it. I mean, I'm
But that's
sorry,
why
but
you have to put it out
But
there
that's all
in
the
your
more
art.
reason to
Put it out
stay
there in your art.
engaged.
yeah, I might end up getting killed. That's
No, you
the
won't.
problem.
No, you won't. Put it out there in your art. I'm telling you, there's different ways to
I
get
think
it out
women
there.
are in serious danger, and I think so is the environment. I'm sorry. I really have all the respect in the world for all of you, but I've been such a fighter for so long, and
We need fighters. We need fighters on all sides. We really do. And now I'm being told by my board guy that we are out of time. This has been a great discussion. I appreciate the two of you, and Amy, you in particular, because you're very impassioned, and I love people who are impassioned. And will you come back? Because I want to learn more about your film and talk about that, and maybe even in the next couple of weeks. Can we do that?
yes.
Thank you so much. And Morris, thanks for being on with us, and good luck in class tomorrow.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I was concerned that my kid was going to get run down in a stampede yesterday over at Berkeley, so I'm glad he made it out alive. Thanks for being here for an interesting edition of What's Up with Kobylt and Friends. There's going to be a lot to talk about in the upcoming weeks. Talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.